Welcome to the Hope, Health, and Healing podcast. I am Michelle Hannah Fields, and I will be your host. Today's episode is episode number 2. Super excited that you have joined us today. Today's episode, I am interviewing my husband, Doug Fields, where he will share his story of growing up, what it looked like for him as a child, and sharing a little bit of his faith journey. I hope that you will gain some nuggets out of his testimony, that you will get some hope out of his story, and realize that God is in every detail of our lives. So, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode with us. Thank you. Today, I am joined by my husband, Doug Fields. And we're just going to learn a little bit about him. He's going to share some of his story, and then we will share how we came together, how we met, and just really how God brought us together and how God is a part of both of our stories. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope that you enjoy this podcast and really get something of value out of it. We always want to leave you with things to think about and just challenge you, but also to encourage you in your faith and to know that God's with you every step of the way. So sit back, relax, and join us with a cup of coffee or your drink of choice, and just enjoy what we have to share today. Thank you. So Doug, tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Doug Fields?
So I'm many things. Most of all, I'm a son of our Lord and Savior, God Almighty. Son to Patricia Childress, Billy Childress, and my biological father, Ross Leonard Fields. I am obviously a husband of Michelle Fields. I am a father of Evan Fields and Olivia Fields, my two grown or almost grown children.
Full-grown children.
Full-grown children, yes. My son's 6'6". I'm a brother. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
I'll ask you a few questions. What is your favorite hobby?
Probably my favorite hobby would either be fishing or hunting, anything outdoors. I love to be outdoors. I love the water. I love being on the water, near the water, anywhere close to water. That's always been my calm and happy place. I grew up, on a farm with a small pond. I grew up fishing and, just grew up playing in the creeks and ponds and things all around my house. We lived in a pretty rural area out on a 100-acre farm. And that's where me and my brothers and sisters grew up, was out playing in the woods and playing in the water. And that's where I enjoy to be. I like being outside. I like being, a part of that.
So my mama always said you a water boy.
I'm a water boy. I'm a water boy.
All right. Well, when you are not fishing or hunting or just enjoying some time on the water, what does Doug do?
So I am an operations manager for a logistics organization, and I've been doing that for 32 years. I run the night shift. I run operations for the night shift. But I also, my love and passion is construction. I do construction on the side, whether it's remodeling my own house or whether it's doing some remodeling projects for other people. I love to build anything wood related. I love working with wood. That's framing is probably the thing I love the most. I grew up, building tree houses, building, deer stands, building, decks and outbuildings and all kinds of things. And it's just something I enjoy doing. It's something that comes natural to me. It's just the way my brain works. I'm a visual learner. If you can show me a picture or, a video of something that you want, I can build it.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood. What's your favorite childhood memory?
From the earliest times I can remember, kindergarten, like I said, I always had a cane pole in my hand, a bucket of crickets or a bucket of worms, and I was sitting on the side of a pond trying to catch a fish.
Huck Finn.
Yeah. And so, those are some of my fondest memories was either fishing, at the pond with my brothers and sisters, or, I had a pellet gun or BB gun in my hand and a dog and, walking around in the woods trying to shoot birds or, other things that, those are some of my fondest memories is just, being out in the woods and being outdoors and being with my family.
Okay. So you said you had brothers and sisters. So I'm the baby of two, and I'm proud of that. Where do you fall, and how many brothers and sisters do you have?
So I have two brothers and two sisters. I'm next to the youngest. So my oldest brother and my oldest sister, they are my stepfather's children from a prior marriage. My biological sister and myself are the children of my mother and my biological father, who was killed in a car accident when I was 9 months old. And then my youngest brother belongs to my stepfather and my mother. So it's his, hers, and ours. There's a mixed family, but we all love each other. We're all very close. We all live in the state of Georgia, in various places. But we get together at the holidays and tell stories and laugh and joke and tease each other. But you know it it was a great family to grow up in. And we had values. We had rules in the house. We had, you know, there was a set of manners that you were expected to live by, and there were, no elbows on the table. You didn't come to the table with a hat on. Obviously I didn't catch that one. You never came to the table without a shirt on. You didn't drink water out of the spigot, without a cup. Things like that I had to be constantly reminded of because, I guess I'm a little bit of not a rule breaker, but a rule bender. And so my dad and my mom, more so my dad, stayed on me all the time about, having manners, having ethics, having responsibilities. And my dad believed in hard work. That's how he was born and raised. And that's how he raised us. He expected us to earn our way and work hard and honor who we were.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think it's good, especially with blended families, just to, have that stability, and the love between you and your sisters and your brothers. And it can be, to me it says a lot about your stepdad and your mom, just how they brought y'all together. They were the ones who were the glue between you and your sisters and brothers, because without them, really setting that standard, that wouldn't have happened. It doesn't just happen automatically. So, they worked really hard to make y'all a family,
Mhm.
a blended family. So, I think that says a lot about how you were raised and what they did to really make it a home and make it a family.
Right.
So, well, what about your journey of faith? Like, tell me a little bit about, where your journey of faith started, and, just anything you want to share about that journey.
So I was born and raised in the Methodist Church. My earliest memories was I guess a minister in Pelham, Georgia, a guy by the name of Paul Sauls. He's the first minister that I remember. A very influential man in my life. And then after Mr. Sauls left, a guy by the name of Hugh Davis Sr. Became our minister, and he and his family just, they really were, a blessing to the community. And, all my brothers and sisters, we grew up, with their family and in the church. And, part of the youth group and doing various things. And he later went on to much bigger and better things. Last time I kept up with him, he was somewhere in Macon, at a very large church in Macon, Georgia. But Hugh Davis Sr. had a huge impact on my life. After we left Pelham and moved to Cuthbert, Georgia, probably the two biggest men that had an impact on my life weren't actually ministers. They were both Sunday school teachers and youth leaders. A guy by the name of Charles Ferguson, he taught Sunday school. Mr. Charles was a lawyer in town, and he played college football for Bear Bryant at University of Alabama. Had a big impact on my life. And then Mr. Hamp Ward, he basically ran the youth group there in Cuthbert, and had a huge impact on my life. He was a pharmacist there in town, and just great man. And then we moved to Manchester. Quinn Smith had an impact on my life, being a Methodist minister there in Manchester. And then I'm kind of sad to say, but as I got into college and got out of college, my faith kind of wavered a little bit. I didn't necessarily go to one specific church. I went to various churches with various ministers. And I'll be honest with you, I've shared this on a live before, but there was a period of time where I was, very angry or bitter towards God about the loss of my biological father when I was 9 months old. And I had a lot of resentment. I had a lot of hard feelings about that. And a lot of that was unfounded and not true. But those were my feelings. And, losing your father at 9 months old, without being able to remember his face, without being able to remember his voice, had an impact on my life. And fast forward, met Michelle, started going to Evangel in Columbus, Evangel Church, and met Mr. Paul Thomas, great minister. He's currently having a huge impact on my life, and he's another man that I really look up to and respect, and feel like helped get me back on track. Almost a year ago, I'm 9 days away from rededicating my life to Christ on January 26th of 2023. So in 9 days, it'll have been a year. Not that I didn't grow up in the church, not that I, haven't believed in God and followed God, but there were a lot of issues that I needed to deal with from my childhood, and mainly around the death of my father, that I didn't understand. I just and I needed people of faith to explain it to me so that I could get beyond that, because I was hung up on that, and there were feelings that I needed to get beyond, and I needed to understand that there was good in that situation, even though there was tragedy in that situation. He spared the lives of me, my mother, my sister, and I needed to focus on that more so than the loss of my biological father.
How do you feel like your relationship with the Lord has changed over the last year since you dedicated your life?
It's much stronger. It's much better. I I find myself every day, I mean, in my truck, there's a song out there talks about that, in his truck, in a deer stand, in a hay field. That's where he talks to God. And I feel like, that's who I am. And that's a lot of what I do. That's my quiet time with God, is in my truck. or out in a deer stand, or, out doing construction or working, or, being outdoors, that's when I connect with God. I listen to Joel Osteen almost every day on the radio in my truck. A lot of the stories I've heard many, many times, but I feel like it brings me closer to understanding, God, and understanding the Bible, and understanding, His Word. And there are a lot of things that I have coming up, that a walk to Emmaus that I'm looking forward to. There's a lot of other things. I'd love to join the church at Evangel. Um, I'd love to get rebaptized. I mean, I was baptized as a kid, but my life has changed quite a bit, over the years, and I want people to know and understand that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for God. You know, at 9 months old, wrapped up in a blanket and in between the feet of your mom in a car, to be in an accident that was serious enough to kill your father. I mean, I'm lucky to have walked away from that. And so was my mother, so was my sister. Um, but trying to keep this positive, and upbeat. So there's been other times in my life that things have happened that stories that I could tell you, where if it weren't for God, I wouldn't have survived. I almost drowned as a kid, as a young child. If my mom hadn't jumped in the pool to save me, I would have drowned. There's been times where I was almost carjacked one time from five guys. They followed me through the store, followed me outside, and I could hear them talking, and they, if it weren't for the grace of God, they would have jumped me and either killed me or taken my truck. Um, and it's times like that I know that God has protected me. He's been with me. He helped me through those situations, and there's more than just that. I mean, that's just some right off the top of the bat that I can think of, but there's multiple other times that bad things could have happened had it not been for God protecting me and looking out for me.
Yeah. And there's one part of your testimony we're going to circle back to, because I know about that time. But but we'll get back to that one. So now I want you to I'm going to ask you this question. What is your favorite scripture in the Bible?
That would be Joshua 1:9. I've got that tattooed on my arm. Be strong.
What made you decide to get a tattoo?
I was 50 years old, going through a midlife crisis, and just felt like I needed to be reminded of who's in charge of my life, and that's the good Lord. And Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous, not frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you may go.
Yep. I love that scripture too, and it is so true, and such a great thing to hold to. The Bible says that we all have a special purpose and special gifts. What do you feel like is your special gift or your purpose?
One of my special gifts is poetry. Probably the skill that I'm known for the most is construction. I'm very good at construction. My brain works that way. I'm very mechanically inclined. I can fix things, and it's just how my brain works. I I I feel like I'm a pretty good writer. When I need to write things, I can write very well. Um, I'm not like Michelle. I'm not writing books or things like that, but things that I've had to write over the years, whether they were, employee evaluations, or, if I had to write a job reference, I mean, yeah, I guess a job reference for somebody, or if I had to write,
Poems for his girlfriend to
yeah,
keep her coming back.
different thing. I mean, I feel like I'm a good writer. And then what was the other part of that?
I said poetry. or to your girlfriend to keep her coming back?
No, what was the other part of the question, Knucklehead?
Your purpose in life and what your special gift was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I think my purpose in life is to serve others in whatever capacity God allows me to do that, whether it's, construction projects, whether it's, in any possible way that I can. Recently, I had a client that I was supposed to do some work for, and unfortunately she had a stroke, and she wasn't able to move forward, with the project because, of her health and everything. And she reached back out to me and she's like, look, I'm sorry, I've had a stroke and I'm not going to be able to move forward with this gutter project, and I told her, I said, look, what can I do to help you? And she's like, well, I really need somebody, if nothing else, to just clean out my gutters. And I said, I got you. And I said, I'll come over there one day next week and I'll take care of that for you. And she says, well, what do I owe you? I said, you don't owe me anything. I said, I'm just doing this out of the goodness of my heart because, you know, I feel like it's what God wants me to do and God expects me to do. I don't expect any payment for this. I just want to be able to help you and give back, to the people that have helped me and given to me all these years, and if there's a way that, I can serve you, I mean, I'm all for that. I'm not going to charge you a dime. And so I did. I went over, cleaned out her gutters and, just tried to help out in a tough situation and let her know that, we're praying for her. If there's something else that we can do, let us know. And we'll help in any way we can, and that's just the kind of person that I am. I don't say that on this, podcast to get, toot my own horn or whatever. That's not who I am. I'm a very humble person. I don't generally tell my business, but, that's just an example of some of the things that I do or have done to, it's just one example, one simple example of something I've done to help somebody out. And there's a lot of things I've done, and will hopefully continue to do, and that God will give me the health and the strength to do it, and the abilities, the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do those things to help others. That's what I'm here on this earth for, and I feel like that's my purpose.
Yeah, God does, have us here to be a servant. That Jesus came as a servant leader, and that's what we're supposed to be too, servant leaders
And a carpenter.
and a carpenter. Yeah, he did. But it also, what you were saying was God has blessed you through other people. And so he's using you to bless people. And so
Absolutely.
God says, if you have an open hand for your blessings, so your blessings are coming from God, and then you have an open hand here, then the blessings of God can flow through you. But if you're just catching blessings here and you're holding on to them, God can't do anything with that. So God does want us to take our talents and resources and bless other people as he leads us. So I think that's good that you're, living that out.
Yeah.
The way that you are. So
Can I add one thing to
no,
that? I mean,
absolutely not.
one of my future goals is to take my construction talents and go on a mission trip and help, you know, build a project either in another country or here in the United States, not locally, but something, nationally. I've worked multiple projects with Habitat for Humanity over the years, and that's something that I feel like that's a way I feel like I can serve others through God, and that's something that I would love to do, and that's something that I want to pursue. That's a goal of mine going forward.
Yeah, that's a great goal, and God will open the door for that. He'll put you on the right team and in the right place to use your skills and your talents. And in the end, generally what happens on a mission trip is you go to serve and be a blessing, but you wind up being blessed. And so,
Absolutely.
it's full circle. God always is full circle. So I want to circle back to one part of your testimony So I know this testimony because you've shared it with me before, but in an earlier question, you talked about how God had spared your life many different times, and you talked about, some car accidents and the almost being carjacked. But I want to talk about your health.
Mhm.
And you shared with me one particular time where you wound up in the hospital and faced some surgery. So, share a little bit of that because that really could have, if you look at it and what happened there, it could have very easily, without God's intervention, had a very different outcome. So, share a little bit of that with us as well. And even things that, may have, as you thought about where you were, like fears that arose, things you were thinking, and just how that changed how you viewed life, even.
Mhm. So, for those of y'all that don't know, I signed a scholarship to play college football for Middle Tennessee in Murfreesboro, and I was an offensive lineman. So, as an offensive lineman, you're expected to be big. Bigger is better. You can't weigh 250, 260 pounds and block guys that weigh 300, 320. And so, that was ingrained in my mind, both in high school football and in college football, that bigger is better, and so I lived my life that way, for many, many years. Even after college football, I continued to be a big guy. I mean, I've been big my whole life, I'm 6'3", and um, I'm ashamed to say this, but there was a period of time, almost 30 years, that I was over 300 pounds. And I really don't know the biggest that I ever got. I would assume it was somewhere close to 350. I quit weighing it at 340 because I just would not get on the scale. But there was a period of time where I was probably 350 pounds. And but anyway, going to the point that I'm trying to make, as far as what you were saying with my health, my son, when he was born, you know, and as he grew up, he wanted to play football, and so obviously I wanted to help coach the youth football team that he was on, which I did, for 4 years. I helped with that, but there was a period when I was coaching football. My vice was sunflower seeds. So I was always chewing sunflower seeds, while I was on the sideline or whatever. And there was one day I was at football practice, and I can remember walking across the football field, and I just doubled over like I couldn't move. I didn't feel like I could. I mean, I was in so much pain. I just couldn't hardly walk. And so they ended up taking me to the hospital here in Noonan, Piedmont, and turns out that I had diverticulitis in my intestines, which was an infection in my intestines because the sunflower seeds had gotten stuck in some of the pockets inside my intestines, and it had become inflamed and had basically cut off my intestines completely. I mean, they had completely blocked. I mean, it was a complete blockage. Um, and so they put me in the hospital, put me on antibiotics and things to try to get that to a point that they could do surgery and do a resection of my intestines. But anyway, while I was in the hospital, they had me hooked up to a heart monitor. And so one night I'm asleep in the hospital room, and they've got the curtain pulled, and I don't know, it's probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and the lights come on, the curtain rips back, and they're yelling code blue or whatever they yell, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? And, later they tell me that, during that time, while I was on the heart monitor, my pulse had dropped to 20. And, it was later determined that I had AFib. I had to do a stress test the next morning with my cardiologist. They had me on a treadmill, had to get my heart rate to a certain level. I had to jump off the treadmill onto an ultrasound table where they could ultrasound my heart. And if I didn't maintain my heart rate at a certain level, I was going to have to repeat the stress test. So, they had me down there the next morning with a pair of shorts, no shirt, no belt. I'm running, holding my shorts in one hand and trying not to fall off the treadmill with the other. And I've got 3 or 4 nurses in there laughing at me, and it was pretty embarrassing. But I was able to successfully complete the test, and they determined that I had AFib, that I have an irregular third beat in my heart, which is hereditary from my mom. Thanks, Mom. Just kidding. But anyway, after that, and after my diverticulitis surgery, I had to meet with my cardiologist, which was Nimitz Daruba here in Noonan. And, he is very frank, very to the point, he holds no punches. He told me flat out, he said, Doug, you keep doing what you're doing, eating the way you're eating. And, he said, you'll be dead or have a stroke in 5 years. And, that'll wake you up. That's a wake up call, and from that point on, I knew I had to do something about my health. I had always worked out in the gym, from playing college football, playing high school football. So I had always chased my weight reductions in the gym, which really wasn't helping. And the reason it wasn't helping is because I wasn't changing my nutrition. I mean, it didn't matter if I worked out once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day. I would get to a certain level and then my weight would not go down. I can remember I had a goal of my 50th birthday to get my weight down to 275 pounds. And I started about 3 months before my 50th birthday. And for the first 2 months, I worked out, once a day, 6 days a week. And my weight came down slowly, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. So that last month of tail end of January, beginning of February, I doubled down. I started going to the gym twice a day, 6 days a week. And the lowest I ever got my weight was 277 pounds. I did not hit my goal. I was 2 pounds short. And I just felt like that was the best it was ever going to be. And, what I didn't realize at that time was that, I was mainly focused on my strength and not focused on my nutrition and not focused on my health. And, you can be strong as an ox. You can be able to lift, an enormous amount of weight. But if you can't run from one side of the gym to the other without, keeling over, you're not healthy. And I was not healthy. I was strong, but I was not healthy.
Well, so tell me about your journey. So when you started focusing on your nutrition, were you able to get down to that 275 mark? What did that feel like? And tell me a little bit about how you feel now.
So when I got on Optavia and focused on my nutrition and my eating habits and
had an awesome accountability partner.
Yeah, exactly, an awesome accountability partner, which we'll talk about later. I was able to drop about 50 pounds in 6 months time, and currently for a little over a year now, I've hovered around 250 pounds, which is almost 100 pounds, down from my absolute worst weight ever. And I feel so much better. I mean, think about, if you're taking all that pressure off your knees, they say what the average pressure on your knees is
4 pounds.
4 pounds. So that's
every pound.
4 pounds for every pound you lose. So I've taken 400 pounds of pressure off my knees, and I used to have all kind of knee problems. I've probably got 10 or 15 knee braces here at the house that I've worn over the years. And since
you were wearing one on our first date.
Absolutely. and can barely walk.
Yeah.
And so, I since Optavia, and since I've was able to reduce my weight to around 250. I really haven't had any knee problems per se since that time frame.
How about your stomach, like from your diverticulitis? Like, have you had any other episodes like that one?
No, never had another episode. When I go to my cardiologist, Dr. Druva, he's the last couple of times I've been, he's like, your lab work's the best it's ever been. He's like, really, other than me just seeing you once a year, they took me off my beta blocker, which I was on for a period of time while I was losing weight, but I lost enough weight that I don't even have to take that anymore. I'm really not on any medications for my heart. The only medication that I really take is alpurinol for my gout. And even my gout is nothing like it used to be because my nutrition has changed radically. And so,
Yeah, that's great. All right, so we have time for one more question. So, if you could leave somebody with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Trust in the Lord.
That answers a lot, and that really will just kind of help you navigate through life's waters and through life's decisions and everything. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6: trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. That sometimes is not easy to trust in the Lord at all times, and a lot of times we try to figure things out on our own, but it just leaves us with more questions than answers, and then void of peace. So if we do learn to trust God in all situations and just really know that our life is in his hands and there's no better hands to be in. Allstate says you're in good hands with them, but I'd rather be in the Lord's hands than in Allstate's hands. Well, Doug, thank you for this time together. We will share our story with you on the next podcast. But just wanted to just say thanks. Now, we do have time for 2 more questions, and this is a question that I will be asking all of my guests. Number 1, first question: are you a coffee drinker or a tea drinker?
I am a tea drinker, or was. Let me clarify that. I was a tea drinker for all those years, and that's what helped keep me over 300 pounds. But I have converted to a coffee drinker. Before I met Michelle, I probably had less than 5 cups of coffee my entire life. And since meeting Michelle, and she has at least a cup a day, I have become a coffee drinker. But I would say I'm more of a hot chocolate drinker than a coffee drinker. I like mine with a little cream in it, or a lot of cream in it, and I don't like my coffee hot. I like my coffee cold. So I generally get it with ice. I get iced coffee. And so, yeah, I would say I once was a tea drinker, but now I'm a coffee drinker or hot chocolate drinker, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. Okay. Good. And the next one: if you could go anywhere in the world, what would your dream vacation be?
My dream vacation would be, well, let me say this, let me phrase that question in a different way. So
Hey, I'm asking the questions
no,
here.
no, no, I'm asking this question. So, somebody said, what would be your favorite vacation? I would say the next one. That would be my favorite vacation, would be the next one. But talking about an individual place, I would love to go to the Greek islands. Um, or obviously a vacation that we've got planned coming up in the future is Curacao. We just went to St. Lucia for our honeymoon, and we had a blast. And so Curacao is another sandals resort, but it is a brand new, or almost brand new sandals resort. So we are scheduled to go there, not this summer but next summer. And really looking forward to that, but probably the next one after that will be the Greek Isles.
All right. Well, good to know.
Yep. So this has been a lot of fun, and guys. I don't normally do this. This is not my comfort zone, but Michelle and I both wanted you guys to know a little bit more about me, and hopefully this, gave you a little insight into, my background and who I am. And it's been a pleasure. Hopefully I can do this again and we can talk about our story, how we met and that thing and that kind of thing. But, it's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate y'all letting me be a part of the podcast. Thank you.
You're welcome. So on our next episode of Hope, Health, and Healing, Doug and I will be back with you, and we will be sharing our story of how we met and how we began dating, and just some of the fun times we had together, and just really how we felt like God brought us together. So hope you will join us next week and hear a little of our story. Thank you for listening. Be sure to follow the show and share this podcast with your friends. Thanks.
Thanks.